바로 선바 쪽은 나바텔라 저는 something 바로 선바라 something 저주대 등인생 건바 신의 건바지나 등인생 건바지요 등인생 건바게 되게 로텔라 당하는 남바예나로 남바 마이나요 된다 something 건기는 몸보요.
In this way, we've now heard about the first 4 types of paramita or transcendent virtue. The next one that follows is that of meditative absorption or concentration. We could also call it stability. This particular meditative concentration, in Tibetan called samten, is something that we find in all different Buddhist traditions. It's not something that is particular to our own tradition, but that is found in all the different schools of Buddhism, of Buddha Dharma, which there are. Now, when talking about such concentration, again, there are various types. The first one is known as concentration in regard to worldly activities. And then there is the other type of concentration that is called concentration that transcends worldly or the world or worldly activities. So these 2 types of concentration there are. I'd like to correct myself. The first type of concentration is not a concentration that concentrates upon worldly activities. It is a concentration that employs ordinary objects, worldly objects, so to speak, to stick with the world itself. And that's the kind of concentration, meditative concentration for that matter, during which we employ ordinary objects. For instance, a tiny stone or pebble in front of ourselves, or a tiny piece of wood, or any other such object. We would use that as the focus of our attention. We would concentrate ourselves to the best of our ability upon such a kind of object, an ordinary, worldly object, and this is why this particular type of concentration is called concentration that employs worldly means or objects. Which brings us to the second type of concentration, which is that transcends the world or transcends worldly means or objects. And that encompasses all the many skillful means which are being taught within the Vajrayana or secret mantra Yana tradition. In that tradition there is a great many methods being taught, given to the practitioner, which utterly transcends worldly activities for that matter, also worldly objects, even the conventional world itself. For instance, in the famous Raja Sutra, there is some advice by the Buddha himself on how the bodhisattvas trained themselves in this way. And he says there quite clearly that as an object of our focus, we could use a representation of the Buddha himself, either a small statue or a painting of the Buddha, or nowadays certainly a photograph of some such representation. We could either focus ourselves then to the best of our ability, one-pointedly, upon that entire form, or we could concentrate upon the heart region of that Buddha representation and try to remain as focused as possible. So that is a method that is being taught in that sutra by the Buddha himself. Another means or another object that we could employ is, for instance, a picture of our chosen Yidam deity. We could place that in front of ourselves and clearly study, concentratedly study all the features of that deity, its color, the position in which it finds itself, the emblems and attributes that it holds in its hands, etc. And then we would try, to the best of our ability, to recreate that shape of the Yidam deity within our own imagination, either in front of ourselves, or we would imagine ourselves in the shape of that deity by way of Chirim or development process meditation. Now, as we practice in this way, it may happen that only a part of the Yidam deity will be visible to our inner eye, so to speak, clearly. We may either only be able to imagine the headdress of the deity properly, or its face. At other times, we may be able to clearly imagine the right hand and its attribute, or the left hand and the attribute that the deity is holding. Whatever it is, whichever part of the deity it is, or possibly the deity in its entirety, of course, whatever it is that we can concentrate upon fully, that we can concentrate upon in an alert and clear way, well, that is the place, that is the particular point upon which we should focus. Now, such kind of practice within the Vajrayana tradition is known as the clear appearance of the deity. Otherwise, it corresponds in all of its features and for all intents and purposes to that which is known as shamatha or Shiné-meditation. To stick with the skillful means of the Vajrayana tradition, while practicing such development process meditation, you invariably would also concentrate upon a seed syllable within your own heart. Let's use the example of white Tara. If you were to imagine yourself as white Tara, then the seed syllable in your heart is a white Tam syllable. There's a certain point in the practice. Yeah, that is one example. Of course, in other Yidam-meditation, you have other seed syllables. There would be a 3 in the case of Chenrezig, a Hung in the case of Rinpoche. So each and every one of these various Yidam deities or these various figures has its own individual seed syllable. In the case of white Tara, it's the white tum. Now there comes a point in the practice when you solely concentrate upon that seed syllable. You do not repeat any mantra at that particular point. You don't do anything else at that particular point, but you fully focus your concentration upon the seed syllable in your own heart. That particular practice, which is repeated again and again, is known under the technical term of cessation repetition. Cessation because you cease to do anything. There is no mantra repetition, no verbal mantra repetition entailed here. You remain utterly, completely quiet and simply concentrate upon the tum syllable. And it's called repetition because you again and again repeat that concentration. So this is a further means from among the various skillful practices of the Vajrayana known as cessation repetition. I forgot to say before that as you familiarize yourself with this cessation repetition practice, then eventually all the influences of veils and obscurations and emotional defilements will subside. Another method of practice is the particular type of shamatha or Shiné-meditation that is known as Shiné-meditation that focuses upon the breath. This breath, which constantly is being inhaled and exhaled all of our lives, for the most part in its ordinary state is what is known as karmic wind. It is being conditioned and it is being brought about in the first place through our own karmic imprints, through our own deeds in the past. Now, as we focus upon such meditation, as we practice this shamatha or Shiné-meditation while focusing upon our breath, then it may happen occasionally, and eventually that is what we want to make happen in the first place. These karmic winds are being brought into the central channel. As soon as we experience that movement of these winds into the central channel, we will make the experience of very great, very deep peace and quietness, quiescence for that matter. And that is what this Shiné or Shamatha meditation is about in the first place, to bring about this calm and restful state of mind. Two altogether different points, the seeming popularity of retreats. Just previously, before Rinpoche came here a couple of weeks before, he was in Spain and visited a Shampa-Kaji center there, where they've just constructed retreat facilities. They have constructed 10 rooms for male practitioners, 10 rooms for female practitioners. However, in both cases, there are more than 10 people who have applied for the retreat. Now, the big question is who gets to do it and who will have to wait. After that, Rinpoche traveled to France, where he visited the center of Tukupemawangja in southern France, in Dordogne, where heretofore there were 40 retreat places altogether. And presently there are 70 people who are applying for these 40 places.
Polela ngarang chok tukung le ke penche wesa leng ta tana la te ngarang chok lo zo dang che ruwa yang le lo so na do sang ki yo na ta ti ne ta la de na ngarang chok tukung le wa.
Also, among our students here, there are a certain number who feel the interest to practice the 3-year retreat, to go through that education, and to that end. Presently in our Benchen Center in Poland, the retreat center that will be called Benchen-Retreat is being constructed. It is still under construction, but hopefully soon completed. And there will also be facilities for people, for male and female practitioners, to practice the traditional 3-year retreat. Now this retreat center that is being constructed in Poland, it will include several buildings, and among them there will be 8 places for female and 8 places for rooms, for that matter, for male practitioners. Now it looks presently as if the construction will be completed sometime next year. So as of, it's not quite exactly sure in which month the final the construction will be finalized, but that is the appropriate idea. So then eventually there will also be facilities for students from among our groups, or Tenga students for that matter, to go and use these facilities for retreat. Now this particular retreat center in Poland, in that retreat center, practice and rituals, etc., according to our particular tradition, will be taught. Rinpoche himself will give all the necessary empowerments to the future retreatants, and he will also give the most important instructions. On top of that, there is Lama Rinchen, who lives for the most part there, who has himself completed the 3-year retreat, who will be there in order to guide the retreatants, and Rinpoche will eventually also send one of our young lamas from Nepal to be there constantly as the resident retreat teacher. No particular one has been chosen yet, but will be eventually. Personally, for the most part, we're all in good shape. We have the opportunity to do such things, and if we have such an interest, then we might very well decide that a 3-year retreat, a traditional one, in order to receive that traditional education would be just the right thing to do. Who knows how long that opportunity will last. Therefore, if the one or the other among you should think about this thoroughly and then decide, yes, this is what I want to do, Rinpoche himself says he would greatly support such a decision.
Dorji Purbuke, Drapina, Rojella, Guru Rinpoche, Druba, that and the Muyo, yes, Kamtila. Tate no yin, Narange, and Naranta Payu Gambala, Rojella, Purbuke, Drapin, Rojella, Guru Rinpoche, Druba and Serio. And Taluk, Rondala, Dorji Purbuke, Drapina,
Rumtek, in the Rumtek monastery in Sikkim, the 1 year there is the Vajrakila Drupchen being practiced, and in the next year, alternatively, always changing from year to year, there is at the same time of the year, there is the great Guru Rinpoche ritual. Similarly, at another time in the year, in our own monastery, Benchen monastery in Kathmandu, that is also being practiced, even though at a different time in the year. In Rumtek usually it's done in March, in our monastery in Benchen is usually done in November, December. Rinpoche likes to point out that this year, in our monastery in Kathmandu, the great Vajrakila Drupchen is going to be practiced, which will be at the very end of November into December.
Sherab
The information has been posted at various points around here. The Drupchen itself will start on the 27th of November until the 8th of December. And whoever put up that note, I'd like to point out the monastery is called Benchen-Retreat, Darjeeling, not Darjeeling. We're not in tea business at all.
Tayang Charong Song Lekala, Tangurova. I take a lay part to Digny. Yensimani Payo General Songna, Tige to Setela, Levarina, Sepemi Yabundo, Naron Song, and Doji Purple Drova. Shabu Dengetella, Doji Purple Song Yodi. I tend to take some Yabundo.
So whoever feels like joining that ritual, that practice, Rinpoche says they're all very much invited to please do so. Of course, you have to think about to take holiday from your jobs for the duration of that time. But whoever wishes to visit Nepal anyway around a particular time and would wish to join the Vajrakila Drupchen, everybody is very much welcome to join in.
And if
you were, for instance, to join the Drupchen and then later on after that maybe think of going and have a good look at the wonderful snow mountains of Nepal, go for a short trek, well, that could be very nicely combined. Whatever merit has been accumulated here, and now let us dedicate that for the sake of all beings.